You are listening to the regular version of Sexy Marriage Radio. smrnation.com.
Welcome back to another episode of Sexy Marriage Radio, where each and every week we have a straightforward, honest conversation to help you frame your conversations that take place in your marriage around the ideas of intimacy and sex and novelty and love and spice and problems, tensions, good, bad, ugly.
Keep rolling. I'm just sitting here silent, letting you just.
You are. It's kind of like I'm running a solo show today. Well, alongside my wife, Pam, we love the fact that we get the opportunity to speak to the nation each and every week. And we also love the opportunity that the nation takes to spend time with us and talk with us. And the way they can do that is call us at 214-702-9565 or feedback at sexymarriageradio.com is the inbox we've got that's been around for over 10 years for all the life of Sexy Marriage Radio that it's been on the podcast airwaves. So if we've left something undone or a question you've got from a prior show, we want your feedback.
Yeah, let us know.
Or if there's a topic or a question you've got going on you want us to answer, let us know and we will cover it because this is listener-driven radio. It's the way we think about this. And we also ask the nation to help spread the word. And they can do that by jumping on iTunes, Spotify, which if you're not quite sure how to do this, there's actually a page now. smrnation.com/review will walk you through how to create a review on iTunes or Apple Podcasts and Spotify.
Ah, very good.
So step by step. And we'll come up with more as needed. Send us an email if there's something that you can't figure out. We want to help you because we want you to help us spread the word. Because married sex is the hotbed for sex, and we want every married couple out there in the world to know that and enjoy that. Well, coming up on today's regular free version of Sexy Marriage Radio, it's a conversation I had with John and Katie Runyon.
Okay.
They are the founders of Faithful Fling.
That's an interesting name. What is that about?
So when you hear the words, since it's two words, role play.
Mm-hmm.
What comes to your mind, Pamela?
Just having some fun little caveat that you and I may participate in to just spice up maybe in an encounter together,
Okay.
right? Like we create a caveat.
So they have a company called Faithful Fling, and what they do is try to help couples play roles in their marriage and add some fantasy and enhancement to their marriage to keep it all within the confines of the marriage, hence the word faithful. They're keeping it all under the same monogamous relationship.
Okay, so trying to do something fun and creative and add a little adventure in.
So in the regular version today, we're having a conversation about how this unfolds and what it looked like, how it happened. And then on the extended version today, which is deeper, longer, and there are no ads, you can subscribe at smrnation.com/SMR Academy. We go into a little bit deeper look at the personal side of it for them, as well as what are the elements where this can become a slippery slope.
Personal side, like how it got started.
Their journey
made him go
and
through it.
their experience and what they've heard from
good.
people too. Because, obviously like we do with the nation here, we get insight and we're privy to a lot of what goes on in people's lives.
Yeah, sure.
Because it's humbling that we get invited in a lot. Well, they get the same thing at times. And so we wanted to talk about just kind of what that's been like and what they hear when people really do branch out into this. But then we also talk about what about the idea of fantasy? Because the one key point that comes across is fantasy can be good for connecting or disconnecting.
Sure.
And we need to be mindful of how that goes. And so that's what we talk about.
Yeah, and there's taboo things that go on with couples given, history, past meanings, all those things. Yeah.
So all that's coming up on today's show.
Joining me today, we're going to dive into a topic that, I don't know, John and Katie, how would you guys describe this? This is one that a lot of times people might hear the whole concept of role play and just get cringy, unsure, uncertain, maybe even a little scared. But John and Katie Runyon, you guys have created an avenue to help couples start to explore this idea in their marriage, and I'm fascinated by it and really looking forward to this conversation. So glad you guys could join me today on Sexy Marriage Radio.
Corey, thanks for having us. We appreciate it.
Yeah, we're really excited. Thank you so much.
And so, Faithful Fling, let's get ahead of this right off the bat, because when people hear the word role play when it comes to our sex lives, I'm going to throw it to you guys. What kind of reaction do you guys get first and foremost?
Well, usually people are pretty excited. They're curious, and we wanted to name our company something that would alleviate any stress, really. So we named it Faithful Fling, and we named it Faithful because it's only between you and your spouse. That is it. It's just between you. And then we wanted to have a fun, flirty word for these role play dates that we would create for you. So we came up with the word fling. So Faithful Fling. So basically, these role play scenarios or dates are going to be just between you and your spouse, and we offer them about once a month, and you just get to go experience something in a new persona and a different character. And it's been really great. We've had a lot of wonderful feedback, and it's just been an easy way to maybe transition into the idea of role playing, because you don't have to quite come up with your own ideas. We provide you with a fantastic script, and it allows you to improvise and create it to your own desires as well. So we just kind of help you and just give you a nice platform. And we trust that you and your spouse have great communication skills and can make it the best for you too.
Yeah. So one of the things that we like to say is that we do all the work and they have all the fun, right? So that's
a good relationship right there when it comes to this kind of concept.
It is, because it can be, all the kind of things that you were mentioning in terms of it can be scary or not sure about it. All those things, we try and take that side out of it and provide that piece of the puzzle, so to speak, so that if someone is uncomfortable with it or they feel it's awkward, they can basically put that back on us. They can say in their head, I'm just going with the fling here. So
yeah, it's not me. It's not me.
Hey,
it wasn't my idea.
Let me have some fun. So I think that really helps people a lot, versus if they were to try and do it themselves. Well, then that I can see where that awkwardness still is there. So that's a big part of it, I think.
One of the biggest things I keep coming across is similar to you guys, in the sense that when we're talking about really adding a little novelty or variety to our sex lives and even to our lives, there are many of us that I don't even know where to begin. I don't even know what that would be, because even to venture out beyond the norm and the status quo is scary as can be. I can't even think outside the box. And so when I add that to my sex life, man, that's one of those that's really difficult, because then it seems like that's just a slippery slope. That's going to lead to this, and it's going to lead to this, because we overreact to things that we don't understand or we're a little scared about, right, as people. So you guys have done a fabulous job from what I've seen of, let me give you some framework, but also let's keep it in the context of you and your spouse. Let's keep it in the context of an agreement, of a covenant, of the sacredness that you've created, and let's explore a little bit. And I also love, John, how you were talking about, you guys are trying to position yourself that we can be the bad guys, even if it goes horribly. I've thought of that too. I tell people that all the time as a joke when I'm speaking, like, if you try something out and your spouse is like, where did you learn that? Or where did you hear about that? I'm like, just say Sexy Marriage Radio. That's fine. I'll take the hit for it.
I think a great way, like if you were interested in role playing within your marriage and you wanted to approach your spouse about it, I think a great way could be like, hey, babe, I love our sex life, and I've been thinking about role playing. Would you like to learn more about it with me? And then you could say like, and then make sure that your timing is right? You always want to think, if you're going to be talking about this, maybe like if they're hungry or tired, might not be the best time. Right. And then just make sure your tone is good. And then also describe what that looks like for you. So, hey, babe, I really love our sex life, but I've been thinking about role playing. It sounds really fun to me. I love the idea of dressing up for you. Would you like to learn more about it with me? So you're, going ahead and saying you like it, and then you're allowing them to have that. Maybe listen to this podcast or check out a website, or let's just pretend to go on a date together in different personas. Like, just kind of you can ease yourself in that, or just go for it. Just sign up for
and tell me if I'm wrong on this, Katie, since you're the one kind of leading this charge right now. Wouldn't you say a lot of us, whenever we get ourselves dressed up, we get ourselves sexified, even, if you will, it's nothing extravagant, it's nothing that I'm putting on a new persona, I'm just putting on my best. Isn't that a little bit of what you guys are even describing?
Absolutely. I do think when you said you put on your best, you do have a little bit more confidence. You feel like you can perform at your highest level. And what does that mean? I don't mean that just in like a sexual sense. I just mean like you're there for your top game. If you dressed up for an interview, you usually are on more. So the same way within a role play is that you can just kind of, I think having that internal confidence really can carry over into that for sure.
And that's one of those things that what jumps out to me is that we did a show a couple of months back on BDSM, where I had guests come join us, and we started talking about that. And I love it. One of the feedbacks I got when that show is, I think you might be the going where no Christian podcast has ever gone before with that episode. But what struck me with it was realizing that we all have variations of what you guys are describing. We just don't think of it that way, right? Like I'm carrying myself a different way is a little bit of a role play. I'm acting a part that's a different version of me, a different aspect of me, a more confident me. That's kind of what you guys are describing and how you've set this up. You just help people explore even further.
It's just a way to go even further, like you said. I think that we all maybe have little scripts that we go by. Like if you shut the door, if you lock the door, that's maybe what's going to happen. If you,
signal. Yep.
You have these signals. We're just really going beyond that. But dressing up is part of preparing for a role play scenario. It can really help your mind. Because your mind is your biggest sex organ, we think.
Absolutely.
That it really helps you prepare to be in that new script. I mean, you're putting a lot of time, energy, and effort into these role play dates or scenarios. So it's really good for great communication. But again, back to like preparing your best self and that confidence. That's just going to make a role play better, because you get better the more you practice. It's like less awkward. I mean, we give you a lot of tips on the website that can help you get into character. And remember, you're on the same team. Like if John and I were going to have a role play scenario, we're not trying to stump each other. Like if I say, I'm from Houston, Texas, he's not going to be like, well, what route do you take to work every day? Like he's just going to be like, wow,
that's so sexy, isn't it? I mean, what route do you take to work every day?
Right, but traffic. I mean, that's probably not going to come up. No. But I'm just saying that we're together. We want this to succeed. We've had a lot of fun with it, and we were just like, we have got to give other people a chance for this, because we have a high level of intimacy. We have great communication skills. We know how to be vulnerable together. And when we brought this playfulness into our sex life and just like this new novelty, it was super hot. Like it was combining those two together was really fun for us.
That's good.
It was good. So I would say so the role play it's like one part acting, one part fantasy, and with a dose of like extra freedom, because you end up with this extra freedom when you're in character together, because you can try new things and you can kind of leave your own bias and your own viewpoints a little bit in the background, so that you can just kind of explore and have fun together, but not have it be so serious. We always say like you should never take yourself too seriously, right? And in role play, in role play that goes like that's exponentially true, right? So, like she said, we have come across so many times where we're working on a scenario or we're doing something and things get in the way, or kids or this or whatever, and you just roll with the punches, and you learn, and like Katie said, you get better at it, and you become more adept at how to handle those situations. But the reality of it is, it's just fun. It is a lot of fun between you and your spouse to experience new situations and things that you would never otherwise encounter.
It's really great because, like, another way Faithful Fling is fantastic is it allows. Sometimes the dynamic of a relationship is one spouse is always the pursuer and then the other one very rarely. So this is really great because we allow, certain scenarios, or we call them flings. Mm-hmm. One spouse is more the pursuer than the other. And that can be really fulfilling for actually both people. And that's really great. We start each fling off with a story a little bit, so you can kind of get a good idea of how your night could look. Mm-hmm. We give you, you have your own password and your spouse has their own password, because we truly believe that your roles should be separate. It's like a really big part of a Faithful Fling, because it also allows you, like, if you don't love something, you don't have to do it. And then your spouse doesn't even have that expectation.
Exactly.
Like, we even put in there what your spouse, like inside the fling, we write what your spouse knows. Like, and then we have an entire other section that says surprises for your spouse. So like, it is really good. Sometimes in the nature of a fling, you may have more surprises than your spouse, but it's back and forth. It's really fun. It's really sexy. We give you quite a bit of character development, but we leave it so much that, like, you can still improvise on your own. We did not want you just to be like, all right, we get this role play, we have a few awkward one-liners, and then you just have sex. No, we want so much more for you than that. We want the flirting beforehand. We give you dialogue suggestions. We give you locations on if you want to take that fling inside your house or take it out on town. Like, we give you definitely ideas about that. We give you supply lists, costume ideas, and then a spice it up section that sometimes maybe you wanted to spice it up, but you just don't even know how. So we give you great suggestions, but we do not use like explicit images or language, but we do have suggestions.
Right. Yeah. And that's what's so great, because you guys are describing this idea of it's more than just the act of having sex with each other. It's the whole build up. It's the whole process. It's a whole evening. And it could even go further than that if you wanted, because, I mean, think about it too. What came to my mind listening to you guys describe this is the people we are on vacation versus who we are in our everyday life. That's a little bit of a role play.
You're right.
I am my ideal self, quote unquote.
Sex, right?
Well, that's what they say, but it is that element of just realizing there's this dynamic of we can all benefit from seeing ourselves as other than what we have seen each other as.
We'll be back with more of our conversation with Katie and John right after this. The Sexy Marriage Radio Academy is a private community of people perfecting the art of a passionate marriage. It's your opportunity to fully experience the fact that the best sex happens in the marriage bed. Not only that, you get to discover that being in a community makes a better life as well. The Academy is a private space for listeners and readers of Sexy Marriage Radio, a place to connect with others about life, relationships, and marriage. You'll find people that come together to meet, support one another, and get answers to burning questions, learn from experts, participate in growth challenges, and more. Marriage can be hard. Don't go at it alone. You pick the level of access. Go to smrnation.com/SMR Academy to join today.
Well, our first role play scenario was when our children were only ages 1, 3, and 5. And John and I were not in the best place for our marriage, I would say. I really became mommy mode. Like, that was everything for me. And John got my leftovers. And then John, he definitely was working on his career, and we did not prioritize each other as much. So that first time that we decided to have a role play scenario together was he just made like a flippant comment like, hey, how come you never dress up for me? And I was like, inside kind of like, why don't you do this, this, and this? But I didn't say anything for one. So it was pretty good. And I thought about it. I got curious, like, do you want to? Does this idea sound fun to you? Like, tell me, like, and then I just surprised John. So I went out and I got this little cute plaid schoolgirl skirt, and I put a lot of time, energy, and effort into creating this fun night for him that he had no idea about. So I'm not suggesting you do that, but I'm just giving you the example of what we did, because it was a catalyst to helping our marriage get better. So I put those kids to bed, and I put that cute skirt on. I matched it with some knee-high boots and like this cute little shirt. I changed up my hair. I put a different perfume scent on, and I met John. He came home late from a soccer game, and I met him at the front door, and I was like, Professor Jones, I've been waiting on you. And his face was like, oh my goodness, is this real? This is so great. Because
who is
he
this
was
lady?
super shocked. Yeah. And this might be that fun girl that I married, because I was so into being a mom, right? So it helped me kind of put mommy mode on the back burner and just develop this. And what it did was, it was a catalyst to us recognizing that we needed to prioritize one another. It's like time, energy, effort, all of those things, better communication. And it was fun. And I do have to tell you though, when I said, Professor Jones, I've been waiting on you, he was really seamless. He was like, I'm sorry I kept you waiting.
Well done, John.
So, well done. Yeah, it was fun. And I think that you were.
Oh, it was fantastic. So for me, it signaled to me like that she was very much committed to working on a relationship and spending intimate time together and focusing on each other. And to be honest with you, I couldn't get it out of my head for months. I was like, every time I came home, I was kind of like, oh, what do we got? Yeah.
Who do I meet at home tonight?
But
right.
it was very exciting. And that carries over, at least in our case, it carried over into our everyday life, because I probably found myself being a little bit nicer, being a little bit more patient, being more excited to come home, or those types of things. So it was a game changer for us. And that was our first experience in role play. And then we've kind of taken it from there.
No, and that's so great, because I think one of the things that happens across the board with every marriage that's been has any length of time to it is so easy for us to create routine lives and routine sex lives and scripts, because it's what works. It gets the job done. It carries us forward, and it's also what helps us feel comfortable. I mean, that's what's so wild. Most people, I think, don't recognize that even the people we sit there and can look at that we deem as good gracious, they are huge adventurers. They're always traveling to these great places, but that's a normal routine for them. It can become boring when they're creating, that's just the way I normally live. And one of the things that is important, I think, from what you guys are tapping into is the reality of, how do I find ways to break out of that in my own self and in my own psyche, and as well as in my relationship? Because that's the beauty of this kind of a design, right? Of you give each side information to act upon, but they can also make it their own. Because that's what when you were talking earlier, Katie, about, and I love the idea, the simplicity of your partner doesn't know what your role is completely. So that way you've got some freedom, and you also don't have the possibility, because I can see it easily. Every one of us has a spouse that would be, wait, you didn't follow the script here. You didn't, right? No, you deviated here. Even if what you offered as a deviation was better, you didn't follow it. And that's, we all have that in our relationships to a degree.
Yeah, no, Katie does a great job inside the flings of defining those things, where she says, here are the things that your spouse basically is going to expect in terms of who's making the first communication, how is it going to start, those types of things, where there are certain things that you do need to do as part of your role.
Right.
And then she's very clear about, here are the things that your spouse has no idea about. So you can do them or not do them.
Right. Make them your own.
But here, make it your own. But here are all these things. And if you decide not to do them, or if you decide to add something else in there, your spouse doesn't have any idea whether that's part of the fling, or whether you missed something or didn't miss something based on your own comfort level or own curiosity. So she does a really good job. I mean, so part of our favorite part of this business actually is the feedback that we get.
Yeah.
So it's always, when Katie's phone goes off with a new order or Fling feedback, it's always really exciting because it always comes back really good.
Yeah, they always like it. I'm like, oh.
She's always worried, like, I don't know if they're going to like this one. And then, the Fling feedback will come back. And we love for our customers to give us feedback. And they tell us how much they enjoyed it or something that they did differently or
they would have never thought of on their own.
Right.
Those types of things. Or like, I had always wanted to do this and
they gave me the excuse.
And they gave me the excuse to do it. And it might it's usually pretty simple, but it's really fun. But these we're bringing a little bit of intrigue and mystery as well in here because you never quite know what the other person is going to do. And it should just be like an element of fun for you. I hope that it is really like engaging and you want to, like, you can't wait for the next fling to see what could happen. Cause we have another little tagline of like, who will you be tonight? Like, cause you never know. That's the great thing. Like we provide you with the character and the name. We do have a change name option. I want to mention that. So within our fling descriptions, like if you didn't love the fling name, or maybe it's a family member or something like that.
Ex-girlfriend, ex-boyfriend.
Right. We have that's
little
going to put a kill on it.
Little too close to home.
Real
Yes.
quick. Yes. So we have that change name option and that can really help you. And we've noticed that some people just use their own names too.
Sure.
Like if you don't really feel comfortable pretending to be Indy, then I'm just going to pretend I'm Katie. And that can just bring a little bit level of comfort for some people. But it is just a great way, like you mentioned earlier, of getting out of your routine and trying something a little bit different. Because when you're on a vacation, typically you're brought your nicest clothes, right? And you're going to be, you want to look nice and you want to go out and do fun things. So you're not looking at all your bills or the kids' diapers don't need to be changed. You're just there with your spouse having a good time. So you're bringing this. That is why typically vacation sex is the best sex.
Right. It's a little bit of a break from our normal, which is what we can all find even in and among normal. If we could just have some impetus to set it up, right? Of just like, okay, wait, tonight is a different night, or this afternoon, or lunch, or whatever it may be. So how can people find more and jump into this whole extravaganza that you guys have
we
created?
would love to see you. We have a website it's called faithfulfling.com. You can check us out there. We also have Instagram at faithfulfling. We would love to have you check out our website. Our first fling is always free. You get it free for 21 days. There's no charge if it's not quite your cup of tea. Just cancel beforehand. If it is, it's fantastic. You will get one fling every month, or we have a membership that offers one fling every other month. It's fantastic.
But I would say on the website, Katie's done a great job of putting a lot of frequently asked questions in blog posts. So they can go to that website and they can really get a better feel for what it is and what it isn't. And also tips on how to maybe approach it with your spouse. There's a lot of information on there if they browse through there. And so the other thing that I will say is at the end of the day, we set up the first fling. It's called the test drive, and it's our customers' opportunity to test drive our product, right? And so it's free to sign up and try it out. So I think there's once they go through that first one, they'll get a really good feel for whether they like it or not. And we understand that our product is exactly what some couples need, and other couples it may not be. Right. So we let them try it, and
that's so good. Yeah, that's good. And as somebody who's seen it all with this too, because you guys graciously allowed me and my wife to check it out too. Fully recommend it as a way to explore and add more. So John and Katie, thank you so much for the time thus far. And I'm looking forward to kind of shifting gears just a little bit. This is my tease for the extended content. So here in just a minute.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cor.
So Pam, what comes to my mind is thinking about when, we're like 29 years into this thing. And
this thing of marriage.
This thing of being married to
Yes.
one another.
Over 10 years on the show, right?
Fair enough. But when we were early on in our newlywed stages and early on in our marriage, even, there was this element of how do we find, if we wanted to explore novel things or taboo things or role playing or fantasy, or even just how do I connect better? And what's the world of desire?
Yeah, go find a book
Right.
to
We
read.
go to Barnes and Noble. We'll go to the library. I mean, it's
Talk to friends,
maybe, but
which you still do, but
I wish more people would actually do that, because I don't think there's many conversations that take place among friends other than those that help spread the word of Sexy Marriage Radio, because
well,
the
agreed.
nation
I
does.
mean, that was even from conversations from where we spoke yesterday. I mean, I don't talk to friends and family about this. I just don't do it.
Right. Well, I love the fact that there's resources out more and more.
Yeah.
One of them being Sexy Marriage Radio, but also the guests that we get to have access to and their work, and we can collaborate. Because I think we're all on the same path of how do we enhance connections? How do we enhance marriages? How do we enhance sex lives? Well, that's what we're here for. And we hope that this has been helpful for you. So if we left something undone, or you got more questions that you'd like us to follow up with, 214-702-9565 or feedback@sexymarriageradio.com. We'll see you next time.